President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court, and they said no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
January 6th, the worst day in human history. Worse than Pearl Harbor, worse than the Holocaust. I love this phrase that the left is obsessed with. Trump and his supporters are a threat to democracy. Like, that's becoming kind of this weird catchphrase. I'll say this again. We are not a democracy. We are a constitutional federal republic. It's a very important distinction. Also, this ridiculous talking point about J6 and that Trump tried to overthrow democracy is just a total fallacy. Not only did Trump not incite an insurrection or condone it, he actively worked to prevent crimes from taking place. I'm not guessing at that. Trump's tweets are literally displayed on the screen. Trump requested National Guard troops, 10,000, to defend the Capitol and was denied this by Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of the District of Columbia. So if there was an insurrection, who's responsible for it? Trump also went on to make a great point about how J6ers are being locked up and imprisoned on Joe Biden's orders, and yet BLM and Antifa rioters were given impunity after burning down and looting cities for 4 months.
We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was taking separate...
This is absolute gold. Biden falsely claims that Border Patrol, who he doesn't even allow to defend the border, endorsed him for president. Minutes later, Border Security actually tweets out, quote, "To be clear, we have never and will never endorse Joe Biden." That's hilarious.
When he left office, and I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him.
So I was actually a little disappointed in Trump here because he should have used some of these girls' names like Laken Riley and others who were murdered by illegal immigrants since 2021. Like, it's open season on your daughters. I thought he should have dug a little deeper into the border stuff, not to mention the drug crisis destroying young lives and that 90% of all fentanyl comes from south of the border. Child sex trafficking numbers at the border have skyrocketed over the last 3 years. Trump should have mentioned that just this week, 8 ISIS-connected terrorists were arrested, all of which came into America through the southern border after 2021. 8 ISIS-connected terrorists. Like, that's terrifying. These are sleeper cells that could potentially cause another 9/11-like event.
Weren't able to be met during the month. It was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination that I was left with in corporate greed is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take...
Here's Biden attempting to lie about inflation. For those who don't understand how inflation is measured, it's instituted by something called the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, which in a nutshell measures price changes in goods and services over a period of time. Biden said that inflation has run rampant over the last 3 years because of, quote, corporate greed, which is just a total cope and not backed by any facts. Corporations have raised their prices because of regulations instituted by the Biden regime, which makes it harder for small businesses to compete with the mega giants like Amazon by keeping prices low. That's called competition. Competition is what drives down prices. Regulations help corporations, monopolies, and cartels corner the market. This is why all of the wealthiest 1% billionaires support Biden and the Democrats.
This is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever.
Okay, this is my favorite moment of the debate. Trump is 100% correct here. We've given Zelensky over $200 billion of our tax dollars. Our military is depleted. We have a recruiting crisis. We've sent Ukraine all of our ammo reserves, tanks, and weapons. The military-industrial complex is getting rich off the Biden administration. Now, Congress is attempting to pass legislation for forced conscription of your kids from age 18 to 26. Under Trump, there was no new conflicts. Now under Biden, we are funding proxies on every continent of the globe, courtesy of your tax dollars. Americans should be paying nothing in taxes this year. If Trump was president, this war would have already been over because he would be over in Moscow right now working out terms of an armistice. Just like Trump negotiated the Abraham Accords in the Middle East and negotiated peace on the Korean Peninsula, Biden has not even contacted Putin once. Not once, which is pitiful. It's pretty bad when even CNN had to admit that this debate was a disaster for the Biden campaign.
That was painful. I love Joe Biden. I worked for Joe Biden. He didn't do well at all. He did not do well at all. And he looked, and I think there's a lot of people who are going to want to see him consider taking a different course now. We're still far from our convention. And there is time for this party to figure out a different way forward if he will allow us to do that. But that was not what we needed from Joe Biden, and it's personally painful for a lot of people. It's not just panic, it's pain for what we saw tonight.
I predict the DNC is going to make this guy step down because after tonight, he has zero chance of beating Trump. Like, Trump was cool, he was calm, collective. He actually was the adult in the room when Biden constantly called him names and insulted him and his MAGA supporters. It was actually painful to watch.
Got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I had, how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
21
turn.
Let's not act like children.
You are a
to a
child.
specific